Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, to the Boom, and for the very first time, we are coming to you live on video as well as on audio. So if you are listening at home, be a little patient. It's our first week. We're going to be throwing up photos, video, that sort of thing, and I think we'll keep it leveled out to where you'll know what we're talking about in the audio. Just be patient with us. I'm your host, James B. McDaniel, and as usual, I'm here with my co-host, Kevin Ely. Kevin, how's your week been? We just finished watching the Super Bowl.
We did. I'm a little kind of wanting to wind down, but now my energy's back up.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to get it up because this was an amazing week of Dynamite. We had big debuts, and of course, we can't start this show without talking about the Bearcat himself. Keith Lee is in Dynamite, and Isaiah Cassidy, God even knows where he is. That man was thrown somewhere in the next week. He's going to land in a random Rampage match coming up in the next couple weeks.
Yep, he came down just in time to land in the West Coast replay.
Exactly. Listen, I was giddy like a schoolgirl when he did that move. Like as giddy as I was when he debuted, I was even more giddy when he did that. I love that so much. And listen, as soon as that happened, the guy I was on the phone with was like, Tony Khan needs to slip like $5,000 into Isaiah's pocket for making that happen. Because that was clearly mostly Isaiah. He did a killer job. What did you think of the match overall?
I thought it was a perfect debut. I even saw that Jim Cornette said it was the best debut they've ever had on AEW, which is, grain of salt. But look, that's high praise.
This high praise from a well-respected wrestling legend and clear current madman. But
right.
One of the things I was a little concerned about is how the fact that, look, we're talking about Keith Lee first because I think he is, to most Americans, to most fans, the bigger deal.
Mm-hmm.
But Switchblade Jay White actually debuted first. He debuted right before the commercial break.
Yep.
And then Keith Lee after. And as cool as it was to get Jay White, I wonder how many like WWE fans that don't watch AEW tuned in for the big reveal. They saw Jay White. Do you think there were some people out there saw Jay White and like, oh, I'm changing the channel? It's a nobody.
I don't know.
Because I really don't know.
Because I bet a ton of people had no idea who he was.
Yeah, because I think hardcores like us had kind of heard, at least earlier in the day, if not earlier, there's probably going to be two debuts. One will be a Forbidden Door debut, and the other will be the debut for the Face the Revolution ladder match. And when they did Jay White first, I was super excited, and I thought, there are people right now changing the channel because they don't know who he is. They don't watch New Japan. And the thing is, if you are a longtime New Japan watcher, I think you might be more excited about Switchblade even than Keith Lee. They're both really exciting guys.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was my big thought right there is, shouldn't you have done Keith Lee first because he's the most recognizable?
Maybe. I don't know if he would have been a turnoff. I do wonder if I think they intentionally set it up to make you think that he was, on his way to the ring. That was a very Attitude Era kind of debut where
I hadn't even thought of that. That's a great point, Kevin.
He's because a lot of people I think they had already teased that it was going to be the qualifier match next.
Right.
And then maybe they thought, him coming out like that made you think, oh, okay, and now he's going to enter and wrestle.
Yeah.
And then you get the Keith Lee thing. There were people chanting Keith Lee in the crowd, though.
Oh yeah, they knew
before he debuted.
They knew, and that's so much like the Ruby Soho debut. And I love it. I love the fact
the CM Punk debut.
Yeah, AEW has continually been able to debut people without saying who's debuting, and everyone figured it out. Even though, by the way, all week, like the Young Bucks, everybody, they were talking about Jeff Hardy. Like they were wanting you to think it was Jeff Hardy because we thought it was Jeff Hardy until we both found out, oh, he can't make any debut until March 10th. But the other thing with Jay White, with Switchblade, is that was a little disappointing to me a couple days after this because I guarantee you the guys on the Dynamite show have talked Jay White to death. The fact that we discovered the next day that Tony Khan signed Jay White like last minute to protect the definition of the Forbidden Door, because when he initially said someone was coming through the Forbidden Door, it did not fit the definition. upsetting fans, upsetting
a very
everyone.
Strict definition that's firmly established in the wrestling lexicon.
Yeah, and
official rule book.
I love that Tony Khan dearly wants to defend and protect the definition of the Forbidden Door, but I'm real nervous because I was thinking we're getting Jay White full-time here on out. Now I don't know. Are we just getting a quick run from Jay White, who's also wrestling in Impact? Who knows?
Well, I think it's telling that of the 3 people who debuted on Dynamite that night, Jay White, Keith Lee, and A.Q.A.
Yeah.
2 of them got All Elite graphics, and 1 of them was Jay White.
Oh, that's a good point.
To me, it shows that it's probably a short-term deal or a per-appearance kind of thing. Maybe just bring in for an appearance, or maybe through the pay-per-view or something like that, and then see what happens. It seems like he didn't think through it very much.
No, I really hope the fans are able to show such support for Jay White. He sticks around. Really hope that happens.
Yeah, I'm a fan of his. I know a lot of people are turned off by the way he's booked in New Japan with all the stalling. He's kind of Larry Zbyszko kind of. Yeah. If Larry Zbyszko was super fast and smooth, but with all the stalling and head, and trolling and everything.
Yeah.
My thing with Jay though is like his character, he can't just kind of come in and work his way up. Like the thing about Jay White is what makes him great is he comes in and says, "I'm the top guy."
Yeah.
And then he just sits there and proves it, and that's how he's worked in New Japan. So, we haven't heard from him yet, really, other than a quick little line. So, I hope that he didn't get too far ahead of himself by being so defensive about not wanting to get trolled on Twitter that he literally brought in the major star just to escape criticism. But, it could be really cool if he thinks on his feet.
I have high hopes, and I saw somebody post that I don't remember where I saw this. It might have been somebody in Fight Game Media. If it is, and I'm not giving you credit, I really apologize.
I need to take better notes in the Facebook group.
Yeah, let us know. Listen, if it was you that said this, and it was in Fight Game Media, drop a comment right here on the YouTube channel, and we will make sure to acknowledge you next week. But the idea that what if the long-term storyline is Adam Cole knows the Young Bucks killed him in being the Elite, and that's why he brought in Red Dragon. That's why he's bringing in Jay White. That he is basically assembling an army to destroy Kenny Omega when he returns. And I really hope that's part of this, because if we only have Jay White for a limited amount of time, I really want to see. I want to see Jay White, Kenny Omega. I want to see Jay White, Bryan Danielson. Those type of matches. I hope we get them. Very much hope so.
Yeah, me too.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want more talk about who we would like to see, like Jay White, what we'd like to see out of him, make sure and join the Fight Game Media Patreon group. Become a patron, $5 a month. We do a special patron show every month that's only accessible to people who are subscribers. And we did our February show last week. It's a 2-hour breakdown of what we would like to see out of AEW this year, who we want to see them sign, who they should cut, what we think the long-term storyline should be. And even though it was 2 hours, we got almost all the criticism we got is, why didn't you talk about this? You left out this person.
That's true.
They wanted a full-on Joe Rogan experience, 5-hour mega show, and maybe one day we'll give them that. Maybe one day we're going to go 24 hours live on YouTube. That's our bonus show. Right. God help you, Kevin Ely, if I try and make that happen.
Yeah, I was getting a little punchy there by the end of that 2 hours.
Yeah.
But I still had about half a page of notes that we hadn't even gotten to yet.
I had a bunch of stuff that I was like, we can't go over 2 hours.
It was a deep dive.
Our editor Garrett would probably lose his mind if we gave him like a 4-hour show. But yeah, it was a really deep dive, and you can get that and loads of other bonus content from all the other shows at Fight Game Media every week, $5, patreon.com/FightGameMedia. Also, please check out FightGameMedia.com. To me, it's your go-to source for pro wrestling, MMA, boxing, all of it. And by the way, one last thing. If you're a big fan of the Yoshi women, the Japanese women who've come into AEW, we have a dedicated show for that on the Patreon cast. And I particularly like that because when the women come in, I'll just fall in love with like their names, like Lulu Pencil. I saw Lulu Pencil come out in a suit and her name's Lulu Pencil. I'm all in. Maybe my favorite wrestler of all time. And that way, then you can actually find out about this new love of your life, your favorite wrestler of all time, your Lulu Pencils of the world. So before we get deeper in the show, Kevin, let's hit this week's rankings. Now, as always, these are the rankings that were released on Wednesday. Let's start with the tag team division.
All right, tag teams. So we'll talk about also little spoilers
because we've got
how we see it changing.
Major matches happened after this was released.
Right. These were released on Wednesday of the show. They're kind of spotty on when they release them. Sometimes it's Tuesday, Wednesday. One time it was Friday. But these were Wednesday before Dynamite aired. And tag team, this is interesting. There's a lot of movement on it because
there's been a lot of changes in all the rankings this week.
Right. So they had number 5 Private Party, who's single. Maybe now that Isaiah Cassidy is orbiting the Earth, they'll probably fall off the list.
Yeah, they're going to have to take a week off.
I'm going to skip number 4 and come back to him. Number 3, FTR, who lost to Moxley and Punk.
Yep.
So they would be 2-1.
Match.
The Acclaimed are 3-1. And then number 1 was the Gun Club, who had their shot and lost. So they'll fall.
Boys.
The Acclaimed would theoretically stick to 3-1 and be the number 1 contenders. FTR would drop, but the number 4 there is the interesting one to me, which is the Kings of the Black Throne, honoring the House of Black and all the lore. Malachi Black and Brody King. They are on the upswing.
I didn't write down their records. What's the big match next week?
2-0. So next week it's going to be the two of them against Penta and Pac, isn't it?
Yeah, Penta and Pac. And I believe we're going to get like a new version of Penta with a new outfit, a new costume. Right. I'm excited about that.
So theoretically, if they win that match, they will be 3-0, which I would say would pull them ahead of the Acclaimed at 3-1 and make them instantly in 1 week the number 1 contenders, which would be very intriguing to me.
The Ass Boys are going to drop.
Yep.
That's really interesting, especially heading into the pay-per-view. That's something we're going to talk about more later in the show. Kind of the matches we see coming right now for Revolution. We're clearly going to be wrong about some. I think we're going to be right about some. But right now, Jurassic Express, they just got rid of the Gun Club. And now, like, who's next? Also, no Danhausen interference. I was a little disappointed. I don't want Danhausen getting too slotted in anywhere right now. I don't want him being the best friends guy, the chaos guy. I want him being the true chaos god.
Right,
I want
the real
him
chaos guy.
I want him to be popping out anywhere and everywhere. And right now, it's only been basically best friends Roppongi Vice matches. So yeah, I want true chaos coming.
Although because of that, if they extend it 1 more week, I do want to see the face-off between Switchblade Jay White and Danhausen.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That could potentially happen next week.
I really can't wait for Danhausen to get like his first time to be horribly offended by profanity on AEW. Like I could see MJF cutting a promo and him coming out and briefly cursing him and then leaving for using profanity. I'd love to see that.
Well, one of his first acts was to curse Jon Moxley.
That's true.
Who dropped an F-bomb on Dynamite the week before. So.
That's true. All right, now we've got the women's rankings. We've got number 5, Red Velvet, who you are a bigger fan of than I, but glad to see. I do like seeing a lot of the young women kind of here in the rankings. Anna Jay, number 4. We've got Serena Deeb at number 3. Thunder Rosa right here at number 2, getting ready for Revolution coming up. Inexplicably, we have legit Layla Hirsch coming in at number 1 at 4-0. And then, of course, Jade Cargill, the TBS champion, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the world champion. And I think it's clear we're getting a setup of I don't want to talk about that right this second. I don't think there's been a lot of movement in the women's rankings this week. So let's go ahead and skip directly to the men's singles rankings. Where the heck did they go? You know what? Would you just like to read them to us?
I'll just read them.
I can't freaking find them.
That is all right. Number 5, we have Powerhouse Hobbs at 4-1.
Okay.
Number 4, Andrade El Idolo.
That's a surprise to me.
Yeah.
Like I know he's been getting wins, but it's a surprise that
he's
he
like
popped
2-0.
Up. Yeah.
So it's a quirk of the rating system in
the
insight
reboot.
into Tony Khan's brain is they reset the records, so we're only a month into the records.
Right.
Number 3, Dante Martin, who's been there for a while at 5-0.
Right.
Adam Cole is number 2. He fell to number 2, even though he hasn't lost. He's 4-0 in 2022. And then Lance Archer was 5-0 at number 1, squashed a bunch of people on Dark and Elevation to get there, and then he lost to Adam Page. So presumably he will drop, and Adam Cole will rightfully assume his place at the front of the line, which you could tell that he did at the end of Dynamite.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking the rest of these people are all kind of playing against each other in the TNT title picture, probably. Dante and Hobbs are facing next week to get into the ladder match. So one of them is going to take a loss.
It feels like Hobbs would. I feel like they're positioning Hobbs to be the guy to take the loss, but I can't see it. Like, for some reason, I see him winning this.
I kind of do too, but the only reason I think that they may not is because they already have Keith Lee in the ladder match, and I don't know if they would want to put Keith Lee and Hobbs in the ladder match. Although
that's a lot of beef.
Pretty interested in
one ladder match.
That's a big special right there.
Yeah, I would love to see that. So you know what? Let's start talking right now about the world title match. We're talking about the world champion. We're talking about, and here we have our graphic here. This is Adam Page after his match with Lance Archer, which I thought was a phenomenal match. Mm-hmm. It did turn out to be a bloodbath, like I was kind of alluding to last week. And then we have Adam Cole come in, grab his belt, and not do something crazy, not try and steal the belt, but basically challenge him. Puts the belt over his shoulder, slaps him on the chest. We're finally getting where we've been expecting we were going in the build up to Revolution. Before we jump ahead, though, what did you think of the match overall?
I thought it was good. I mean, I've kind of been complaining lately about the amount of blood in AEW. So, Hangman Page, made a great epic troll tweet the day after the match saying that he was tired of bleeding every month.
Yeah.
And got lit up by a bunch of women who didn't realize he was making the same joke they were.
There's been we need to do after should have been on Dynamite. We need to add a new section every week for like what's happening on social media, because there's so many things like that we need to be presenting just to show people where to go to read the replies. Like on that, I cannot just I haven't been through the replies on that, but my God, they've got to be great. The quote tweets,
it's pretty funny.
Good Lord, that's probably a solid hour of entertainment right there, Kevin.
Yeah, the match was really creative though, and it was pretty epic considering that no one expected Hangman to lose. The fact that they had so much drama, and I feel bad for him because he really put his body through the record to build some drama in there with the the blackout on the ring step was just horrifying.
Oh God!
And then the amount of blood and everything like that.
What did you think of the kind of, I don't want to say gimmick, but what did you think of the strategy of Jake the Snake taking off that top rope, or was it Dan Lambert that took down the top rope? Yeah, so that he couldn't do his finishing move. Yeah, the buckshot lariat. My man, when something leaves my brain, it flat out goes. Yeah, the buckshot lariat, which then goes back and it shows that his last few opponents, because Bryan Danielson was doing a similar thing where he would just drop to the ground to avoid the buckshot lariat, bail out of the ring, and this was a second strategy from a second opponent to do the same thing, which makes you wonder if Adam Page is being seen as kind of a one move champion.
I don't know if it's that. I think it was just setting up the creativity of the finish. I think someone just had an idea for what happened. Someone probably was just saying like, what would happen? How would you hit the buckshot lariat if you didn't have the top rope?
No, I really liked it.
I also liked that he hit it right away.
Yeah,
and set up. They did a 10 count attempt right in the beginning of the match, so you did get to see the move.
Yeah.
And then they took it out, and then the creativity at the end of how he rolled over Paul White's back to hit it was to the table to the outside it was
so good,
really great.
You mean Paul Turner, right?
Oh yeah, sorry, Paul Turner.
No worries.
Yeah, no, that'd be a little harder to roll.
Because I was like, wait a second. White. I was like, because listen, I always question myself. I'm like, was it Paul White? When did Paul White get there? One thing I kept thinking, and I was on the phone with a friend who was asking me the question. He's like, man, this looks like so many of these like legendary matches we watched when we were kids. It feels like those matches. Well, it looks like it. The guys are great. We know it's a great match. It feels different, though. And we were talking about what makes this different. And I wonder, was it the difference in production from like the old NWA pre-WCW days where all the lights in the arena are off but over the ring? Or is it just that we're grown-ups now and we're not quite as in awe of what we're seeing in the ring now as when we were kids? But this did absolutely bring me back to old NWA memories, the streets of Atlanta running red with blood, at least according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Right. But I really enjoyed it. And I was thinking about you. I was thinking about the blood thing. At least here's the positive. They didn't start off the night at 7 p.m. with this match. They ended with it much closer to 9, which I thought that's the right move. That's the way they should be going more often than not with bloody matches.
Yeah, I don't know if it would have been the right thing to do ratings-wise, but part of me wished they had put it on Rampage and had moved maybe the tag title match or something to Dynamite. That probably wouldn't have made Dynamite stronger, but probably would have been actually the real smart move, but just presentationally, I would have liked it ending the week more,
that would have been fantastic.
And also, it just wasn't the most talked about match of the night because Keith Lee was. So it was it was going to get upstaged.
When this show started, like we talked extensively about this match last week. I knew somewhere in the back of my mush brain, I knew this match was happening. When the show started, I had no memory of this match being on the show. I was just thinking about Keith Lee. I was just thinking about Jay White and the Forbidden Door. That's all I was thinking about. And then when I heard that, I was like, oh, I forgot. That's awesome. Like, I really enjoyed the show. I really, really enjoyed Dynamite this week. We had all of this that we've talked about so far, and we had this phenomenal MJF entrance. What did you think of the entrance? Did it feel a little too WWE for you, or were you all in on this?
No, it didn't feel too WWE at all to me. What it felt like, and Jeff Hawkins pointed this out on the Dynamite show immediately after it aired, was what it felt like to me was 1986 NWA. That there were weeks when the good guys won, and there were weeks when the bad guys won. And the weeks that the bad guys won, they came to tell you all about it.
All about it, exactly.
And this was one of those ones that it just, no cake blew up in anyone's face or anything like that. He came out and crowed and said everything he wanted to say. And then Nikita and the Superpowers came out to, challenge them into another match with Punk and Sting and Darby with their baseball bats. And I love the little touches they did of like the huge entrance for the Pinnacle and all the production. And then Punk for once doesn't come out to Cult of Personality. He just comes out. Tony's got to run over to bring him the mic. Made it feel more impromptu. Yeah. And the interplay with them, just, he was mad that he lost, and even though he had a claim, it still stings when MJF says, I beat you twice.
I absolutely loved when he said that I want a rematch against the man who actually beat me, against Wardlow. I loved that. That was so great. By the way, real quick, I actually liked what AEW did. Like, MJF comes out, he starts making out with these women, particularly this redhead.
Amazing, yes.
And AEW gave that redheaded lady a shout out on Instagram at AEW Glam. AEW Glam is the makeup woman, and she like features everybody's makeup when it's done. Every week they do the before and after, and they did it for that redheaded lady. And I like that just this woman had a bit part, and they gave her a shout out. You can go find out who she is, all that. I love that about AEW.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that was such a great little moment, where she grabs him, and it's just it's just MJF getting to live out the fantasy of the character of MJF, how he always imagined his life should be.
Yeah. One of the lines that I really like from the commentary on this one, I don't remember who said it, but they asked, is MJF wearing white socks, or is that just how little tan he has on his ankles? Whatever, that one really stuck with me.
Yeah, his ridiculous spray tan.
And so, of course, this entrance, this leads to basically CM Punk can get his rematch if he can find a tag team partner who's not Darby Allin and not Sting, and they can beat FTR. And that match was good. They're like, this match is going to happen tonight, and everybody wondered who is his tag team partner going to be.
Again, playing up the expectations of who's going to debut and win.
Me being a child, I'm like, it's got to be Samoa Joe. It's got to be Samoa Joe. We're getting more new people this week. I think I
might have wept real tears if I had seen Joe and Punk team together.
I wanted 18 people to debut Wednesday night, Kevin. I wanted all the debuts.
You wanted a Vince Russo reset,
oh my God. I hate that we said that name, but absolutely, just give me everything. But I got to say, if it's not going to be Samoa Joe, Jon Moxley is a great tag team partner, and this led to one of the best matches of the week.
It was so good, and Mox, like, it didn't even occur to me that it would be him. They did such a good job of making you think about other things that you forgot that they didn't even announce one of the biggest stars in the show. And then as soon as I heard his music, I was like, oh, of course, he's not doing anything else. And it was just one of those.
It's kind of the two loner renegades joining up for one big fight against assholes, basically.
Right.
Who they both despise.
Yeah. But also that, like, moment where you're like, oh, wow, I haven't really seen these two together since in 10 years.
Yeah.
Probably.
So long. Probably maybe longer than
that. Since the CM Punk title reign, and you never really saw them team together because, they were kind of his enforcers, back when the Shield was first formed and everything. So there's this cool history that got played into.
Yeah.
And it was just this great classic. Like, again, we talked about NWA 1986. Like, that was a Sunday afternoon, Barry Windham and Dusty Rhodes against Tully and Flair,
Yeah, well, this was such a classic tag team wrestling trope, which is two megastars.
Mm-hmm.
Like Moxley, top of the food chain. CM Punk, top of the food chain. How can this lowly tag team, even though they're one of the best tag teams in the world, how can they stand up to this? And through their absolute mastery of tag team tactics, they were taking these guys apart and made it an incredibly competitive match. Although in the end, the two top singles guys beat the top guys tag team. And so now, my guess, if I'm CM Punk, I ask for MJF in a cage at Revolution. Do you think that's where this is going to go? Do you think it's a cage match?
Yeah, I do. I think probably something like that.
I think this is kind of the classic time. Yeah, it's the classic match you use when somebody has had all this trouble with outside interference. That keeps out the ring. It keeps out the ring. Maybe. You never know.
That ring will fit through a chain link.
Yeah. Listen, I think a lot of people think this is going to be the blow off. CM Punk gets the win. I don't know. Against MJF. He just MJF might end up on top of this feud at the end. I could see that happening.
He really could, because they could be building to him being the next world champion, and if so, that would be a great way for him to do it. I really don't know which way I would go.
No.
You could very easily see Wardlow do something like, I sort of accidentally mistossed the ring and Punk got it.
Yeah.
And in a way that has plausible deniability, and they can kind of keep it going where it's like Wardlow's, I really do like that they're finally doing what I called for way back in the beginning, where Punk starts working on Wardlow.
Mm-hmm. He's actually calling him out in front of his teammates. I like that.
Right. And building them up and being like, you're better than these guys, right? And it's total, I hate to keep exposing my age and go back to the old school, but it reminds me of when Sting and Eddie Gilbert were together, and
you're talking
the promoter,
UWF Mid-South.
Yeah, whoever the figurehead was at the time, I remember them had an whole episode.
Had to be Bill Watts, right?
Well, it was like a ex NFL guy, like a John Aram or something like that, or maybe like Ken Mantell or someone, and he said, I'll defend the TV title against anybody as long as they're in the top 10. And he said, great, you'll defend against Sting. And then later in the show, Sting came out and everyone cheered him and went crazy. And Sting was like, hey, I'll never turn on hot stuff. He's my buddy. and then he leaves, but you see that little look on his face where he's like, oh, he's turning soon. And that's where they're at with Wardlow.
How great is Tony Khan that he has had us ready for Wardlow to flip for literally every show for 3 years, 2.5 years.
He's playing a dangerous game right now because he runs the risk of it peaking, but
he does keep upping the ante though. When you think it can't do it anymore, he does keep doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of the other biggest parts of this show, leading to a big match next week, Santana and Ortiz versus Chris Jericho and Jake Hager. And by the way, in this photo, I feel bad for Jake Hager. I don't know why. He looks like Charlie Brown after he's like walking off screen with his head down.
Yeah, his pants are too short.
He got pants. Somebody left him in the dryer too long. Maybe he's wearing Sammy's pants. He's just looking rough while Santana is selling to the crowd so well. My God, he's so charismatic. This team needs to be tag champions yesterday, and I would love to see him take them off Jurassic Express. So we've got that match next week. We've got Jericho and Hager versus Santana and Ortiz for the future of the Inner Circle. And frankly, I don't even remember at this point what the winner gets. I don't remember.
I don't think they said. They just sort of said we'll settle this. They didn't really say like
they're just settling.
Will they break up or not or anything that
Yeah.
There was a lot I liked. I like that they're doing this storyline. I think it's time. I love that Santana, especially Santana, but Santana Ortiz are finally getting their own identity because everything they're saying is true. They have been held back they sacrificed their own growth by being a part of this unit. And they had moments to shine and they had great storylines and all that stuff. But they should have been tag champs by now. They should have been a top team, and they really subjugated themselves to the Jericho stardom thing.
They were about.
And it's time for them to break out.
They were about the Inner Circle feuds, not about going for the titles. It is time for them to break out. They've got a great look going right now. Although, listen, I've liked every look they've had. I do. By the way, AEW is really keeping like the white and black makeup business in business with Santana, Ortiz, Thunder Rosa, Darby Allin, Sting, CM Punk when he wrestles with them.
Sort of grease paint business going.
And Danhausen. And they're all using white and black every week. Good Lord. What else with this? So Sammy Guevara basically said, like, look, I'm tired of all this fighting. He basically said, I'm Inner Circle for life. I'm tired of all this fighting. I'm leaving the Inner Circle right now unless you guys can work it out. Kind of leaving it to the two teams. I feel like Santana and Ortiz have to win this. Chris Jericho, now a couple of years ago might have said differently because Jake Hager was like the big enforcer and Chris Jericho was the top guy. Jericho feels older, slower. He's lost a few pounds, though. He's looking a little better. Jake Hager appears to be very, very sad and have very short pants. I don't know if that tag team can take out Santana and Ortiz.
Yeah, and then what would happen? We don't even know. Like, what does that even mean if he loses? But, I think somehow it's got to build to something at Revolution. I'm kind of wondering if it's like a six-man, if Eddie comes back and it's Santana, Ortiz, and Eddie against Jericho, Hager, and maybe Sammy. Like maybe Sammy kind of gets guilted into teaming with them and then kind of pays the price, doesn't defend his title on the pay-per-view or something, and kind of gets roped into like this and is like finally like, okay, screw it, I'm out.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that Sammy had been a bigger deal in this segment. I mean, he's the champion. He's
the only champion in the bunch.
According to Cody Rhodes, he's the top champion in the company.
Yeah, they're wanting these belts to be semi-equal.
Right.
And I like that. I like that they're attempting to do that. They're clearly not semi-equal, but they're making the effort. And and I actually thought, could this lead to Sammy stepping up and becoming more the leader while Jericho pulls back a little? And it doesn't look like we're going to get that, but I think he did mention something about like he's going for titles right now, and he can't be dealing with all of this. He needs a solid group around him like Jericho had.
They had an opportunity to kind of dig in a little bit more into the backstory there with like talking about how Jericho would, he'd be in Le Sex Gods with Sammy and they'd get a world title shot. Or then he'd say, well, now Hager's my partner and we're going to go after the tag titles, and they could have played that up. And then I would have really liked it if Sammy had just said, hey, you know what? This was great for a while and you guys are family, but I'm out. Not because the way they played it of saying like, I'm tired of this like bickering, but just make it like, I'm out because I'm the TNT champion and I've got bigger things to worry about.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll get back to me when this is worked out. Let me know.
And have him be the one who actually breaks it up.
Right.
And the inner circle explodes or whatever. And then, maybe like even if they gave him a hard time about, worrying about Fuego del Sol or, that kind of thing, or his vlog and, being distracted by Tay Conti or something, there's a lot they could have done to kind of weave him in. And maybe they'll get there with it. I don't know.
I'm really interested to see where this ends up at Revolution, because I think most of this is going to be decided. I think Santana and Ortiz will be moved beyond this in a month before Revolution. So I'm really interested. Are they gonna be going for the tag title, which I hope they are, and if so, what are Jericho and Hager gonna do? And if they actually do leave the inner circle, does the inner circle stay together and bring in some new blood, or could this be the end of the inner circle? They've been going 3 years. I think the Horsemen in their prime were kind of going around 3 to 4 years. Really kind of about how long. Though. Yeah, in different combinations, but this has been one solid for 3 years. And let's be honest, even in the glory days, it felt like we had these groups together for 10 years. We didn't. Yeah. I feel like I watched Rock and Roll Express versus Midnight Express for 8 years. I probably watched them for 6 months. And then they went their separate ways. The Horsemen kept
Evolution, The Shield. They're all like 3 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of as much as you're going to get out of a lot of these combinations. And I've got to say, I think it's time for Jake Hager to move on, to either go full MMA or do something different. Like, his character is not interesting to me at the moment.
No.
His short pants aren't that interesting to me at the moment. And I feel like we need a new Jericho. I think we need a heel Jericho.
Yep, I agree.
I want New Japan Jericho right now. So something else we saw Jade Cargill take on A.Q.A., who is a new signing. She is official. She's got her A.Q.A. is All Elite badge out there. What was her name in NXT, and had you seen her wrestle before?
Zeta Ramir.
Okay.
I had seen her maybe once or twice, probably more than I noticed.
I think
she was mostly enhancement.
I think I heard her name one time ever.
Yeah. She had one match of note where she defeated Toni Storm in a sudden upset with a shooting star press that was like a big thing, and then she was in like a tag match and then lost again and then was never seen again. I think she had some injuries and things like that, and that's what got her cut.
I want to say this about her in this match. Yeah. I thought she did pretty well until she didn't. Like, there were some problems, there were some weaknesses we saw in this match, but I didn't see them all immediately. Like, she seemed to be doing a fairly good job of holding her own in this match at the beginning. And again, it comes back to a complaint. I'm gonna file this complaint every week. Jade Cargill needs to be working against accomplished wrestlers, not fresh meat.
Through commercial breaks.
Yes. Like, come on, y'all. Come on. We need Jade to get better. And I'm not saying she's not getting better, but you need to be maximizing the time Jade Cargill's spending in the ring, since she's clearly not wrestling 5 times a week.
I think on paper, they probably had a really solid match. Like, I look back and see, what did it look like they were trying to do?
I only really saw one.
How close did they get
up
to it? There were points where I thought, wow, Jade looks amazing in this match, because there was like, where she does the something like she tried to go for an arm bar and Jade just lifts her up over her head with one arm and then does the bicep pump with the other arm. Like that, like, oh, okay, that's the stuff that you'll want to see that goes in the highlight package on TBS,
Yeah.
And so I think on paper they thought, if all this goes according to plan, it'll be a great match for Jade and a great debut for A.Q.A. and everyone will be excited that we signed her.
Yeah. And
then they just went too long, and I think Jade was the one who messed up first, because what it appeared to be was AQA, she hit the shooting star press, and then there was a kick out, which you shouldn't have done that, but but then so she decides to go for another one, and Jade is kind of on her hands and knees, and you can tell that AQA is like intending to do something, but Jade's not in position, and she's not getting into position.
Right.
And so I think she thought, well, what do I need to do? Looking back, what I think was supposed to happen was Jade was supposed to like ram the corner or something and knock her off the ropes.
Right.
But she was waiting for it to happen, and she either got impatient or Jade was just taking too long, and maybe she didn't trust her to do it. So she just hopped down. And then once she hopped down, I think both of them just got in their head and just forgot where they were.
Yeah.
And so it was just a case where, like you said, there's just two people who are not ready to cover for the other.
Yeah.
And they just went off the rails.
I was surprised when I saw, I believe the next day, that AQA was signed, but I did like most of what I saw from her, and I think she's a good addition. But I just think there's so many other great women out there who could have been brought in that haven't been yet, and that's a little bit of a surprise to me. But I'm sure AQA is way easier to deal with than your Tony Storms and all these other women out there. I'm sure there's plenty of negotiating going on that you don't have to do with somebody as young and as inexperienced as AQA. But I'm looking forward to see what she's got. I think she's going to grow into a very good wrestler. And again, that's one thing we've seen, particularly from Ty Conti. She did not look that great in NXT. She came over. She started out kind of average and got better and better. And, maybe his back slid a little, but it shows that AEW has done a very good job so far of training these women up right.
Yep.
Let's see. What are some of the other big things to talk about? What do you
think of the rookie 5-minute challenge?
I don't even remember it at this point.
Serena Deeb. It was right after that.
That's right. She was okay. I can't remember the name of her opponent. Katie Arquette?
Yeah.
It's a real shame we didn't get David Arquette in drag. That's a real shame, because I have seen some David Arquette matches,
David Arquette,
including the one where he almost was murdered by Nick Gage.
Right.
Have you seen that, Kevin?
Yes, I have. There's a documentary about it.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the documentary. I watched it. I have no memory of that, Kevin. Like, I remember,
it was in a weird spot because
it wasn't a weird spot.
It came after all the events right before it, and then before the main event. And I remember thinking, would they even have time for it? And the only reason they did is because it was 59 seconds.
And I remember,
which was pretty amazing that she, Deeb hit it to where the tap and the bell came exactly 1 minute.
That was very well done, and that's something not many women outside of Serena Deeb can do. I got a question. I had a friend lodge a complaint about Serena Deeb, saying he loved face Serena Deeb, and even though he thought he would love heel Serena Deeb, he's not feeling it because it doesn't feel like it's actually her. Any thoughts on that statement? I'll say this.
I see where he's coming from, because I think she's really likable. Yeah,
I'm not loving her as a heel as much as I thought I would. But I don't have any huge complaints about it. As soon as I saw I do remember, as soon as I saw the 5 minutes kind of up on the clock, I knew this is going to be fast. This isn't going anywhere near this 5 minute mark. Something that's come up a lot on Fight Game Media on the Facebook page is there've been a lot of criticism about AEW not using Hikaru Shida. I want to be clear, because I think we've said it before. The whole reason that Serena Deeb destroyed Hikaru's knee on live television was because Hikaru needed to get back to Japan. I don't know why. Probably just she has family. She'd like to see him every now and then, and she's been going for a while. So she's back there for a few months. So we're not going to be seeing her be used probably until late March or April. I figure she'll probably be back. But yeah, that's why she's not there. It's not they're not using her. She is actively wrestling right now in Japan with family, all that sort of thing. So
yeah, there was an unfortunate Twitter dust up that came and went really quickly.
That's
where
right.
She was was doing an interview, and they or maybe it was someone tweeted a question to her maybe or something where they said, "What's your favorite moments in America or in there?" And she said, "Sitting in catering, talking about wrestling with my friends," or something like that. And she used the phrase "sitting in catering," which in
is a negative in
wrestling
WWE
parlance, is code for I'm not being used adequately.
Right.
And so there were people who were like, is she trying to throw shade on AEW? Is this a Big Swole situation? Because in an interview, she kind of did make similar references.
She talked about how it's become early. Basically, there was also an interview where she talked about how early on it was a benefit to be a Japanese wrestler in AEW, and now it is a hindrance that you've got to work harder. Basically because of all the new talent coming in.
Right.
And I think...
And also that they didn't get a lot of help from the company, like getting apartments and things, like doing things that where language was a barrier.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't realize. I didn't read that part.
And it wasn't like super complainy, but I think it was, because it's a translation.
Yeah.
It was very easy to read into it. And then when that combined with, making a reference to sitting and catering, which I think like many people, including our friend Oliver Kopp, said that no, that's actually her favorite thing to do is sit in catering and talk with, just talk wrestling with like, Jake the Snake Roberts.
And I think both me and Oliver, look, Oliver used to work for WWE, but I know that me and Oliver in particular watch less WWE than maybe anybody else in the group. And so the whole catering negativity had largely escaped me. Like I'd seen a couple stories.
Yeah.
But then when I read catering
about Ruby.
Yeah. When I read catering, I was thinking of me being on TV and movie sets, sitting in catering.
Right. Craft service. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking to my buddy, Jamie Kaler, who used to be a regular on a sitcom and like learning about the comedy tours and all this, like from these older actors and these famous comedians. And those are some of my favorite memories from working on things I've worked on. And I immediately recognized what she was saying. Like, it's amazing to have a Jake the Snake Roberts, have access to that type of person and just sit there and while away the hours earlier in the day. Cause most of these people are getting there like noon to go on and wrestle at 7:30, 8 o'clock. Right. There's a lot of hours of downtime, and I love that. And now I don't even remember where we were going. I don't even remember where we were heading, other than I was bringing up that Sheeta was out in Japan for right now. Okay, what else did we have going on this week? We haven't even gotten to Rampage yet. We had Jurassic Express match with the Gun Club. It was a fine match, but I didn't think it was anywhere near as good a tag team match as we had earlier on the show with Roppongi Vice versus the Young Bucks, with Danhausen being pulled out from under the ring after Orange Cassidy went under the ring. And basically they're just using him as a distraction now. You pull him out, he curses you, you get jumped by people coming over the top rope. I need better Danhausen, people. I desperately need. That's the lesser Danhausen. That's the least Danhausen you can get. Also,
and there's a little.
Go ahead.
There's a little. Sorry.
Oh, not
there's
at all.
There's a little glint in his eye too when he comes out, where he comes out and he's not sure why he's there.
Yeah.
He kind of does the spacey eyes thing, and then he's sort of like, okay, now what?
Now it always feels like, where do I go now is what I'm reading.
Where do I go now? Yeah.
I kind of think, and I saw a lot of people saying this, I didn't notice a strange walk from him, but a lot of people don't think his leg is completely healed up yet. And it
was a pretty bad break, I think.
It was
he had a rod put in, I think.
Yeah. And so I get him not being used in matches. I get that. But again, there's so much more you can do, even if it's just on BTE or on everyone. By the way, he is used extensively, and we'll talk about this more in a bit, on everyone's vlogs this week.
Okay.
Danhausen was the big get for everyone doing a vlog. And if you watch, well, again, we'll come back to that.
He co-hosted the pre-show again, too, with Alex
I missed that.
Yeah.
How was that?
He actually convinced... it was very bad in a funny way. He convinced Alex that he was Dasha.
I also saw something. I don't remember where this was. He convinced Mark Henry to give him his watch.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
He is now the owner of Mark Henry's watch, his like $2,000 watch, because Danhausen very quickly like, oh, thank you so much, and then just scurried away. It was pretty great.
See, that's the kind of thing we talked about it before we went on air. That's the kind of thing he needs to be doing. Like, they need to have a Rampage where when they do the main event promo, instead of Mark Henry, it's just Danhausen randomly, and he's like, well, I guess it's time for the main event now. They
have the little scene pop up in the center, and you don't see Mark Henry, and then Danhausen just kind of wanders in and picks up the mic.
He's like, "Oh, what are you folks doing?"
That's a pretty decent Danhausen, my friend. I've got to give it to you. That's pretty.
It's like Christopher Walken. You just kind of
speed
everyone's
it up.
got a Danhausen now.
Let's see. So the Jurassic Express match was the main event. No Danhausen in that. That was a real shame.
Yeah.
Gun
Club looked good though.
Who's that?
The Gun Club looked good though.
They did look good. And one of the things they pointed out, which we've been they are very similar to Hook in a way, in that we've seen all of these guys on TV for a couple of years now, especially during the pandemic when they were. I got to say, the Gun Club were kind of the stars, some of the stars of the ringside crew. They were really showing out. And but they have not had many matches. They were saying at least one of the members of the Gun Club has had under 15 total pro matches, and they're good. Again, this didn't live up to CM Punk and John Moxley versus FTR, but there's no way it could have. These guys, again, are very, very young, and even Jurassic Express, they're not exactly the oldest pros out there.
Right.
You know, not compared to FTR. John Moxley and CM Punk, but it was a good match. So saying it was the third best tag match of the week, I think is fair, and it's not a negative. It was a very solid match. I think they need to get dropped down the rankings a bit, and I would love to really watch them fighting their way back up, because like right now, I love the Ass Boys thing they had going with Danhausen. Billy Gunn is phenomenal. They need more of an identity than just they're the Ass Boys. Like, they need their identity as a tag team, and I think they haven't fully developed it yet, and I'm excited to see them develop it.
Yeah, this match actually made me wonder. I don't think we talked about them in our Patreon show, but they might be one of the people that I would say, your best place might be NXT 2.0.
Really? Okay.
Where it's like I don't know if we'll see them at this level again in AEW.
Right.
There's just too many great teams.
And the thing is like one of the they're not somebody I would normally say maybe you should cut, because they're so young. And again, I think there's like 15 to 20% of AEW's roster are under 25 years old, and they're being kind of pinned to be the stars in 5 or 10 years.
Right.
But maybe send them on an excursion to Impact or somewhere, to let them get in some more matches against some more people and then come back. Like, I don't necessarily want them released, because I do think they might have a big future, but I would like to see them get more matches elsewhere.
I feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see their upside. I see their upside as performers.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they'll ever get the opportunity that they just got again for a good while. So it's kind of like, maybe if there's greener pastures somewhere, it might be in their best interest to seek out somewhere else, whatever. But, as an Oklahoma City guy, who has been living with the Thunder post Westbrook and Durant and Harden, where every year is a rebuilding year, and hey, we've got all the best draft picks and we've got all the whatever. I kind of sympathize with the hey, these are all future stars, man. You just got to stick around.
As a lifetime Louisiana resident, I have always felt a kinship to the Oklahoma City Thunder, because you guys took in the Pelicans after Katrina, and that will always mean a lot to me.
Yep.
So Blake Lee, we had Blake Lee versus Hook. I was a little disappointed in Blake Lee. I was hoping for something special, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, there's no way this is actually the top guy, because they're not going to have him beat Hook. Nobody's going to beat Hook right now. That's crazy.
Right.
And it needs to be a squash. And if he's actually their top guy, I don't think they want to bring him out and squash him.
Right.
I basically bought what they were selling me when I should have seen through it immediately last week.
Yeah, me too. I think I was like, who's this guy? I thought maybe he'd be a little flashier.
Yeah.
Really wasn't much to him. I mean, he might be very skilled and have a lot of potential, and they just didn't intentionally show it. But, the bit where he threw himself into the ground in front of Hook, I think Hook actually was. I think I was actually a little bit of Hook's fault, because I think he was already out of position, so it wasn't as impressive when he stepped out of position.
Yeah.
Like, it needed to be like this great Orange Cassidy move where he just sort of sidesteps and, but it just looked like the guy was going to miss him and made himself look bad. But Hook's Hook can take it. He's cooler than everybody there. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think we were talking about where he's going from there, and we might talk about it when we talk about Revolution predictions. But he's got a he can keep squashing people a good long time like this. But I think after a while, people are going to really be especially how they play up the rankings and everything. You're 3-0 and you're getting a world title shot.
Yeah.
Or 5-0.
Well, it's like MJF isn't in the rankings. He's had one loss ever in 3 years.
He's 1-1 in 2022.
I see. That does make sense. All right, here's another match I want to talk about on here, and that was was it Reba Renegade, Robin Renegade versus Britt Baker. Her twin sister Charlotte Renegade made a huge promise on Twitter, as you can see. Go watch my twin lick some ass on Rampage on Friday night. This led to one of the greatest wrestling threads I've ever seen, mainly reaction photos and GIFs. Yes, I say GIFs because I grew up with the word and I know how to pronounce it. I know GIFs is going to lose the war, but I'm sticking with it. Max. Tony Khan, of course, with the great, well, no one's going to top that because in the end, no one got their ass licked. There was no ass licking in that entire match. Now, look, I didn't see all AEW programming this week, so I don't know if there was no ass licking at all, but definitely not in that match. And I know a lot of you got really excited about this. And, of course, there were examples in the thread of ass licking that has actually happened inside the AEW ring, but not this week, not on Rampage. I'm afraid that's going to have to wait.
She left it up, though.
She
God
did.
Bless her.
It is now her pinned tweet.
She didn't try to hide from it.
It is her pinned tweet at this moment. It has so many thousand likes and retweets. And I literally next week I'm going to start a social media segment because there's been so much greatness happening on social media. So I think it's time for our regular segment that we got from our dear Paul Fontaine right here. Should have been on Dynamite. Kevin, let's start with you. What happened this week that you think should have been on Dynamite?
I had a couple of things, and the people who are watching on video, I hope Paul watches this on YouTube. So
Paul,
see the avatar you selected for him.
Go watch on YouTube. I think you're going to enjoy this.
Yeah, it's great. It's it's perfect. Captures the spirit.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. The first one I saw on Twitter, and it involved Aubrey Edwards, and this happened while Dynamite was on the air. A man named Mike Darty, I think, was tweeted at Aubrey and said, "Hey, Ref Aubrey, this girl in the third row in Atlantic City is trying to get your attention, and it's a photo of him with kids that he's brought, and one of them is dressed pretty much like Aubrey." Even though if you look really closely, she has the WWE logo on her referee shirt. But
the best a kid can get. I think that is an adorable outfit.
That's
I really like that.
I know, it's awesome. And I love it. She did that. So he tweets at her, this is about a half hour into the show.
Okay.
So, clearly she came there to try to get Aubrey's attention. So he tweeted at her. And the best part of this that made this so just got me in all the feels, and it was just so pure and good, was that Aubrey immediately responded and said, what side? Where is she?
Yeah.
And responded again and said, I'm going to find her during Rampage. And then the next thing you see is the dad tweets this photo that we put up on the YouTube side. If you can't see it, if you're listening to audio, look up Ref Aubrey on Twitter, and you'll see the thread.
This photo is so
the
great.
Most pure goodness of, Aubrey Edwards finding this fan, having a moment there. I don't know how you work that into Dynamite, but I would have loved it if they had just had something like that to show. To me, it just shows how fan friendly they are, and how little of a barrier they, literal and figurative, they keep between the talent and the people, and that they let refs have personalities.
Yeah, something I think they should think about doing in the future is, you see, this is on camera. You can see the cameraman when you check out this photo. In the background, we see the back of the young lady, and then we see Aubrey, and her face is just electric. And you see the other kids in the area just laughing and just loving this moment, getting photos.
Yeah.
So this is caught on camera. We've got this.
Yep.
I think they should try and put together montages of things like this that happen throughout the day and throughout the show, to either run at the very end of the show or put on Twitter immediately after. Put on montages of all these things. because I do think they're the most fan-friendly major wrestling show out there today. And I don't think you could even argue that at this moment. Just from going to the shows are more fan-friendly.
I contrast this with I went to SmackDown a little over a week ago here in Oklahoma City, and as I was leaving the show, Sasha Banks was not on the show. And as I was leaving the show, there was a poor gentleman sitting a few rows up who was dressed head to toe in Sasha Banks gear. Young man.
I wish I'd seen this. This sounds fantastic.
He had a satin Sasha Banks jacket. He had the bling rings, the knuckle rings that go across all the knuckles. He had a Sasha thing. He had like the glasses. He was dressed to honor Sasha Banks. And he was just sitting there in this chair as everyone was dispersing at the end of the show, just staring into nothingness because Sasha was not there. And I felt so bad for him.
He went through so much. He put in so much work. And it's something that should have at least been caught on camera. And hopefully it was. I don't know. But I've got to say.
So that's why it makes me happy, though, to see like Aubrey, this amazing photo of Aubrey, that you can tell they're both having a moment there. You know.
I think. Like, look, I don't mean to get too deep into this. I really do think that we're going to have an absolute flood of female referees in the future because Aubrey is an outstanding referee. Like, everything about her, again, the ballet background, you see so much in her movements in the ring and her fan interaction. I think it is going to lead to a lot of future, and I don't mean this girl in 10 years. I mean 16 and 17-year-old girls right now are going to say, you know what? How about I put off college a year, Mom, and go to like Lance Storm Wrestling Academy, something like that, very soon.
We'll just go down a whole tangent of her revolutionizing the ref game, but she is unlike any ref I've seen, and a lot of that is in her expressiveness of her physicality and things like that. That is. I know some purists, our own John LaRocca is like, he hates it when anything you do to notice the referee, that's not what they're there for. But she has learned how to become an almost conductor, not literal, but I mean the way that she uses her body to point to the action and things like that great refs have done. But she just does it in such an expressive way that I think is like really interesting. And I think, like you said, there's gonna be a lot more people like her in the future.
I've been watching pro wrestling since I was literally like 3 or 4 years old. And I know I went to a match when I was 4 years old. And this is the first time in my life where I get excited when I see that Aubrey's the ref. And I'm not distracted by Aubrey. Like, I'm watching the match. She adds to it. She adds flavor. And I think it's a situation where if you could put her in matches with people that maybe don't quite have the personality they need or aren't quite the draw, I think she can benefit them. I think she helps those matches along. And I think she can add more of a spotlight, like you're saying, directing people's eyes kind of where they should be, and do a little extra if the wrestler isn't quite experienced enough to get it all done themselves. And I love it. Okay, your second one I'm really excited to talk about. Give us your second one.
Yeah, so this was over the weekend, the promotion Defy in Seattle area, the Seattle, Washington area.
Justin Payne and everyone else in Seattle, I am really jealous that you guys get Defy. Because everything I see that comes out of Defy seems so awesome, man.
Yeah, I've never actually I've only seen Twitter clips and things like that, but it seems like it's the best indie in the country,
right?
And they have a lot of New Japan participation, a lot of AEW cooperation. So there's a couple of homegrown people in there, one of which, namely,
let's talk about Buddy Wayne. Let's talk about Buddy Wayne as a way of introducing Nick Wayne.
Okay.
So Buddy Wayne was a long time. Basically a long-time worker, WCW, WWE, and he's a guy who went in and lost. He's a guy who came in and lost to people. He put the top guys over, and he has been a long-time guest, a long-time contributor to F4W and Wrestling Observer. And I've been listening to F4W and Wrestling Observer since before the merge, since 2005.
Me too.
And I mean, back when, like, I think we've probably mentioned, I know I've mentioned this to you probably on the podcast as well. Like, first time I heard Brian Alvarez interview Homicide, I didn't know who Homicide was. I didn't know who Brian Danielson was the first time. And I remember Buddy Wayne would come on, and Buddy Wayne was ridiculous, and he had crazy stories. And so super invested in Buddy Wayne over the years. And then I learned he had a wrestling school that was basically in like a kind of a barn on his property.
Yep. Trained Brian,
and of course Brian has gone on and trained people who are actually in AEW. Buddy Wayne has sent people into the big leagues, and then his son, who I didn't even remember. Well, I remembered he had a son, but back then he was very young. And then that guy, Nick Wayne,
he may not have been born yet when we started listening.
For real. Because he is like 17 years old, 18 years old.
He just turned 17.
Yeah, and he's been making a lot of appearances in GCW over the last 6 months. And apparently, of course, wrestling in his home promotion, Defy. And I'll let you take it from there. I just wanted to get that Buddy Wayne, Nick Wayne connection out there, which is why we're so interested in this guy.
So I guess I would love to hear from like Brian or Jim Valley or someone who, is involved in that promotion, or at least that is more familiar with it, to really give us the real story. But what it seems like to me is that Nick Wayne is as homegrown a talent as you could possibly have. Like he literally is like the kid who grew up in this promotion, and so he's wildly popular, and apparently he's also really dang good for a 16-year-old kid.
He is, most of the time when I've seen him on GCW, he's the best wrestler in GCW. Now, that's not the highest bar. Right. I love GCW. They're not a wrestler's wrestling company, but he is, I think, far and away
he definitely
the best
has
worker.
He has it.
Yeah.
And, but he's 16. He's real thin, and,
16,
but,
wow.
Yeah. I think he just turned 17.
Okay.
And so the GCW show that was pay-per-view recently, I guess someone actually outed him to the commission, and he was barred from performing because he's not 18 yet.
Oh, at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fans are really behind him. So apparently he had a match for the Defy World title against Chris Daniels, and lost. And after the match, I've only seen it on FamCam.
Brian
Alvarez actually.
Brian Alvarez has the video up on his Twitter at Brian Alvarez. Go check this out.
And Darby Allin shows up, and he says, I have something for you. And he pulls out a piece of paper in his pocket and has an AEW logo on it. And he basically says, I have an AEW contract. Do you want to take it? And everyone goes crazy. You can tell by his face.
They go wild, man.
Either Nick, I don't think this was a Fuego del Sol situation, where it's like you're not really sure how much was work or not. It appeared pretty genuinely a big surprise to Nick Wayne.
And I don't know how blown up he was from the match, but he was kind of hanging on the ropes, and he kind of sold it. Like, he took a little while to like acknowledge it and say yes, which he eventually did, and I loved it.
Did.
Yeah, and I think there was genuine shock. I think you're right.
Yeah. So, there hasn't been a follow-up. We haven't seen, there's been some mock-up. Nick Wayne is all elite graphics and things like that. And I guess that he actually was at an all elite show. There's a photo of him backstage from a while back. So I don't know how long he's been on their radar, or if Joey Janela said something, who actually got him to look, or even, we've been talking about what kind of deal is this, because he is only 17.
Yeah.
And they may not be able to actually sign him for real, but maybe it's the kind of like their equivalent of those next in line contracts, or what they did with John Huber's son, Brody's, where it's basically like, we're going to get first look at you and pay you a little bit,
kind of like a developmental deal.
Right. And I kind of hope that's what it is. So it's sort of like he can continue to just do what he's doing, maybe do some Dark and Elevation.
I would love to see him as like a regular attraction on Dark over the next few years.
Yeah.
Don't need to see him on Dynamite or Rampage for a while. Like, I want to see him, when he comes out, I want him to be able to be our next hook.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
send Nick.
And so this is a little bit of a should be on Dynamite later.
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, our should have been on Dynamite segment. We are stretching to the limits, and I don't mind it.
It's a loose concept.
Yeah, it's just everything that's happened in and around AEW that we think you should be aware of. We're going to get these categories straightened out fully here in the next couple weeks, I think. And I think doing it via video as well as audio is going to end up helping, because I know it's going to help. It's helping me keep like not jump around as much, because I literally will have should have been on Dynamite on the screen. And I remember this is what we're talking about. So I've got two things. First, BTE had a pretty good segment this week. Like, for the longest time, we had Alex Reynolds, John Silver pursuing a friendship with Budge, with Adam Cole. Adam Cole, yes. Listen, y'all, when we get Adam Cole, Adam Page, I'm going to butcher the names so bad. It's going to be a nightmare for everyone listening. But I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. And so, for the longest time they were pursuing them, he hated him. He hated them. They wanted him to change his name to Budge because they thought he should be a manager, which, by the way, Keith Lee's here now. That BTE needs to readdress his being a manager. But this week, we see him enter his hotel room. And listen, there hasn't been a lot of good on BTE for a while, but this was great. You see him enter his hotel room. He climbs into his bed, crawls over Alex Reynolds, tucks in between Alex and John Silver, and he's trying to get comfortable. It's not working out. And then you hear his girlfriend, Britt Baker, basically yelling at him from across the room, and the camera pulls out, and you see Britt Baker alone in her bed, and I don't even remember exactly what she said, but she is not happy, and she wants him to get John Silver and Alex Reynolds out of this room immediately. Oliver Kopp reminded me of this, actually, yesterday by just talking about how great Britt was on BT. It's a phenomenal scene. It's really, really good. And I was glad to finally see something solid and to see John Silver back not calling a woman a bitch. So that was solid. And my second one is basically this week I decided to watch as many vlogs as I could. I watched Ethan Page's vlog. You know what? Let's start where I started. I watched Danhausen's vlog because now it's called Danhausen, like, has an AEW vlog. I should have screen capped it to share here. I didn't. But in his vlog, like, he invades Ethan Page's vlog. Like, Thunder Rosa comes into his vlog, and they're filming. It's like Vlogception. They're both filming their vlogs at the same time. And she makes some big plans I'm about to talk about with Danhausen for next week. But Ethan Page's vlog had good things, but they weren't, like, cut well. Like, you would just see.
This is more of a slice of life blog, right?
Yeah, like, exactly. You, like, get 8 minutes of guys, like, in the process of getting seats at a restaurant. You don't just see them as action is happening. But Danhausen's vlog is phenomenal because you see everyone seeking out Danhausen, and including Thunder Rosa. And she's, like, asking him all these things, asking him if he likes tacos, then asks him if he likes ass, to which he responds, I'm a big fan of the cereal Bootios. And so they start talking about Bootios, all this, and then Thunder Rosa's talking about how much her fans love ass. And I'm like, okay, apparently I need to go see what in the hell is going on Thunder Rosa's vlog. And this is what's going on right here, ladies and gentlemen. And listen, if you're not on the YouTube on our YouTube right now, you need to be. So 2 weeks ago, sexy photo shoot and surprise booty battle 2. There's a lot of booty going on around this vlog. She did not spell that right. And it's just a picture of ass, and a solid one at that. And then this week's video. It's okay to cry in the current curious case of the icy butt, as she is pointing at some random woman's butt and grinning. It is all ass all the time on Thunder Rosa's vlog. Wow. Until next week, when she is picking Danhausen up at the airport in San Antonio. She is taking him to the Alamo so he can do the tequila dance in front of it. Okay. And then she's taking him out for tacos.
Great.
That is a must-see this week, everybody. That's a must-see. I have a feeling we're going to have video from that next week. Whether we get pulled or not, we're going all in on this. Danhausen, even if it's a 5-second video of Danhausen doing tequila in front of the Alamo.
That alone,
I think we've got to.
Amazing.
I think we've got to go there. And yeah, that's my should have been on Dynamite this week. Check out what Thunder Rosa's got going on. Not only here in the recent past, but also next week. I think it's going to be really, really solid. And now I think it's time to talk about the matches coming up next week. I'm going to start out. We've got a pretty good match here. I'm going to throw it to you. We've got a pretty good match coming up today on Dark, Monday. Give us that one.
Yeah. That's on
Dark
Elevation,
Order
I
is a
didn't
good
even see
match.
this coming.
Yeah.
The Dark Order against the Acclaimed 2.0 and Daniel Garcia. That should be, as they say, a banger.
Yeah, because not only do we get John Silver and Alex Reynolds, who have been phenomenal in all their tag matches, we're finally getting to see the actual original Dark Order tag team of Evil Uno and his tag team partner, whose name is escaping me. Stu Grayson. Thank you, Kevin.
Stu-Dose.
Yeah, and then of course we're going to get 5 thrown in for the heck of it. I kind of wish it was Colt Cabana. I think that's the most powerful, or 10. That's the most powerful Dark Order combination. But this is going to be a seriously good match. Everybody in this match can really work. Work rate wise, like Alan Angels can clearly go.
Yeah, that should be a ton of fun.
And that's not even before we get to Dynamite.
Yeah.
So
that's already been taped. That would have been taped.
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So what do we have this Wednesday?
Dynamite. Dynamite's pretty loaded already. We've got Sammy Guevara versus Darby.
That's a big
kind
one.
Of out of nowhere.
Yeah,
for
that's
the TNT
a really
title.
big one.
And that's one of those ones where you're like, that anything could happen there. I don't think they would just take the title off of.
It feels
Sammy
like
that.
it's moved too much recently. It needs to stay with Sammy for a while. But nice feud between two of the more popular all-time TNT champions is really interesting.
Right. So that should be really good. They've had really good matches in the past. We've got the Jericho Hager versus Santana Ortiz match that we already talked about.
That's a straight-up bop, y'all. That's going to be good.
Mercedes Martinez versus Rosa. No DQ, so lead pipes. And,
Thunder Rosa bloodbath. Teeth are going to be flying. This is going to be reprehensible to every woman who was previously watching. What's the lead in again?
Blood next week again, probably.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to be fantastic, though. Come on.
That actually should be really, really good. And then Wardlow versus Max Caster in a qualifying match for the Face of the Revolution ladder match.
This is interesting because we've had Wardlow against Scrubs and we've had Wardlow against CM Punk like a top guy. This is kind of the first time where we see him against a mid-level guy like Max Caster, and I'm really interested to see how this goes. How much offense is Max Caster going to get, and how much interference are we going to get from both sides potentially?
Right, and so he was against Blade.
That was the first one we saw like this,
and it's it's also telling that now he's going against heels. But Caster is interesting because Caster is like a heel, but people really like him too. So
he's over.
They may not want him. They might not love seeing him get smashed over and over and over again with power bombs as much. So his rap must be really good to really.
I hope that's
he's gonna have to really turn it on that San Antonio crowd.
Kevin, I really want that to be how Max Caster gets booked. Every Monday morning, he sits down with Tony Khan, he gives him his rap, and Tony either gives his match or doesn't, based solely on the rap.
Right. That's the
Bengals are going to get buried this week, though, right? Like the Bengals are 100% going to get buried in that rap.
Oh, totally. But he's also, he's probably going to make an Alamo joke or something,
Yeah, for sure.
Local to make the people hate him. And then probably the match I'm looking the most forward to this week is Bryan Danielson versus Lee Moriarty, which could be a torture session, could also be him recruiting Moriarty into his fledgling dojo.
That's the first thing I thought when I saw this, because I didn't think Moriarty was a big enough name to be wrestling Bryan Danielson. And I do think there's going to be some casuals not be that into that match for that reason.
Yeah.
But it's a name that was mentioned just a few weeks ago. This could be a recruitment thing. It could be him showing Lee Moriarty in the ring and telling him in the ring how much he can learn from Bryan Danielson. And I would love to. I think that's a cool idea, and I'd love to see that. And think this could be the first step. Maybe let's say the first of 3 steps to us getting Bryan Danielson versus Daniel Garcia. And that is Shangri-La, my friends. That is what we're all here for.
I want to see an entire Rampage dedicated to that one match.
How long do you think until we get a Rampage like that? Because I want that. I want a 1-hour Rampage match. I really want that.
that is something that, we talked about how Rampage is the B show, but it's also the best B show there is, and it's such an easy show to watch.
You tune in 1 hour, you're out,
yeah.
you enjoy it's great. You couldn't ask for better.
I do wish, like I said earlier with the Page match, that every once in a while they would just say, this match is huge and we're going to dedicate this show to it.
Yeah.
And, and make it feel a little
I would love
more
to see
unique.
Like UFC, when they moved to Fox, they had UFC on Fox 1. I was there in LA. It was a one-match card on TV on Fox. It was Cain Velasquez versus
Jr.
Junior Dos Santos. And the thing I was about to go deeper into it. Basically, both guys wanted to pull out, but neither could because that was the only match. But I would love it even if it wasn't a full hour, if they started with like a little bit of a preview of the match. You talk to a couple of people. You talk to a couple of people in the crowd how they think it's going to go. Then you have the entire match. You have it finished 5 minutes early, and you talk to the guys afterwards. You talk about what this is going to lead to. You have the heel basically threatening over what happened in the ring and what's going to come next and how this guy's going to pay. Give me that 1 hour, and I will be the happiest camper out there.
Yeah, and it's low risk.
Yeah,
to do that.
Is if you've got two guys who can give you a killer match.
I guess the only downside is that that Rampage is never going to outperform Dynamite.
Yeah.
And so if you have a match that good,
you want people to see it, etc.
But we've seen with the Punk thing, if you do something special enough, that show can pop a number. And I think like you've mentioned, the DVR numbers,
I guarantee you they're almost the exact same as Dynamite. I really do. 100%.
Yeah, I bet they're really close.
Because if they're doing 5 or 6, like you need another 300,000 or 400,000. Like I think you're gonna get that if you're a hardcore AEW fan. I think we've seen the floor for Dynamite. Let's say 890, something like that's the floor. I don't think after the live plus 3s, I don't think Rampage is ever going to get under 800,000 or 900,000. I really don't believe it.
Yeah, I think especially if they start to put some more oomph behind it.
Yeah.
This week is not big on oomph, although there does have very intriguing matches. We have
hit us with them.
Dante Martin versus Will Hobbs, which is kind of a rematch from just recently, but it's a
fun
qualifier.
Match. It's a fun match. We already know that. Yeah.
And it's a big storyline match.
Yeah. And I think we all know who history would say was going to get into the Face of the Revolution ladder match. That's Dante Martin. You want the high flyer.
Right.
But man, we talked about before the show, you kind of said Hobbs and Keith Lee in a ladder match, that could be some craziness. I'm seeing Keith Lee tipping a ladder with 850-pound dudes on it over.
Yeah.
Give me that, man. Just deliver me that, AEW. AEW. Danhausen's got me all tongue-tied.
Just start them off in opposite corners and just have them keep running into each other until one of them falls.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then after that, we also have Jay White's in-ring debut against Trent Beretta. So they made a point that the 2 times he's been on AEW programming, he's targeted Beretta.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a good match. Trent is the best of the best friends when it comes to in-ring.
Yeah, 100%.
And when it comes to serious wrestling, anyway,
it's and for all the New Japan lovers out there, and there's dozens of us, man. There's literally dozens of us. That's a big match. That's a great matchup.
Yeah, we could break 13, but
that's right.
I'm excited to see what Jay does. I've always wondered if Jay's style in New Japan was what he wanted to do, or if just how Gato booked him.
Right.
With all the stalling and the really long matches and things like that. So I would expect some of that, but I'm really interested. I'm really interested where that goes, and to see if Jay is just sort of a novelty for now, or if they're really going to be building something with him, because if he sticks around, he could be the guy who comes after Cole if Cole doesn't take the title.
That would be a phenomenal match. And I don't know if I've seen that match before. I don't think I have.
Well, they did it. Yeah.
Okay.
Hangman and Jay had a match for the U.S. title on one of the New Japan shows in Long Beach, or when they were in California.
Okay.
It was on.
I have not seen as many of the American shows as I should have. They're always, for whatever reason, more difficult for me to catch.
Those shows were so good. He had a great match. It was the one where Jay White came at JR and Josh Barnett left the table to go after him to shoot.
Where JR actually got injured.
Match.
Yeah. Okay. I saw it. Then I just have to go back and my memory's garbage, y'all. My short-term memory is horrible. No, this is a pretty solid. So this is a pretty solid week of matches. We've got really fun stuff on Rampage. We've got a lot of big matches on Dynamite. We're in the build up to Revolution. I think it's 1 month away. I think things are about to start really heating up in AEW right now. And I think Kevin is completely frozen. That's fine, though. We're at the end of the show. Everybody, follow Kevin online, at Kevin Ely. Come follow me, at Peppermint Fatty, and all social medias other than TikTok, where you're going to throw an X on either end of that. And I hope you'll check out fightgamemedia.com. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/fightgamemedia. And if you're listening to us and watching us on YouTube, I hope you'll come subscribe to the Fight Game Media podcast. The Boom is there every Monday. And if you're listening to us on audio, come check us out. Watch at least a couple minutes on YouTube and give us some suggestions on what we can do to make things look better. This is not the final product. This is only the first product. So I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll talk to you all again next Monday. Have a great one, everybody.